Hello viewers, I'm Phil the Practical Gardener, and this is one of a series of videos that I'm producing regarding the creating and maintenance of gardens that will fit into a small space and are affordable and are low maintenance. And vertical gardens very much fit within those criteria. So today I'm going to be talking about vertical garden, and particularly the one I'm creating here and the ones that I've created in the past, and lessons that you might want to take on. So why vertical gardens? Well, they're a very efficient way of using your space to the maximum. Even if you've only got an apartment with a bit of a terrace on it, you can create a vertical garden and you can grow some vegetables, some leafy greens or a few flowers using virtually no space at all. The second thing is that you can do this very cheaply. So the ones I've made are very affordable. I've constructed them myself. You can buy commercial vertical gardens that you can hang. They're usually pockets that are mounted onto some form of backing. I'm not a great fan of those ones because even though they will look great for a while, eventually they will need maintenance. They will need the plants to be removed and replaced, and that can be quite difficult from what I see. Even taking the whole garden off the wall would actually be quite difficult. In my case here, I like to make something that is modular. I create each element as separately contained as I'm showing here, and so it's very easy to look after it. And regarding the maintenance itself, all you have to do really is pretty much some watering and some simple maintenance, because they're very low care and you're managing them at a convenient height. You don't have to bend over. Also, for a viewer looking at them, they look fabulous looking straight onto them because they're at your height. They're at eye level rather than down at the ground. So I'm going to walk you through how I'm creating this one here, which is my current project, and perhaps it will give you ideas. I'll talk you through some of the basics of the concepts I'm putting into train. So what I've done here is I've bought some grid steel, which is in my case galvanized. It doesn't need to be, it can just be the grid steel that is used in concrete reinforcing. I've chosen galvanized because it will maintain its looks better, but it's not a big deal. Even grid steel that is rusted over time will be okay because you're not really going to see it anyway. Then I've cut it down to the size of my desired project. So in this case here, the width of this is 2.4 meters across the top, and the grid steel I bought was 2.4 meters times 1.2 meters, so that's 8 foot by 4 foot for Americans. And I've cut that into the shapes. You can see this one here and the side ones. And when I've mounted them, I've done that again in a modular way, so that if I want to actually remove the whole thing from the wall, I can take it down. This is actually in 5 different segments. You can see here, there, and over the top. Each one could be easily managed. I've cut that down to size using simple small bolt cutters. That hasn't been at all difficult. Then the next thing I've done, in this particular case here, I've got a concrete wall that I've previously built. So I've drilled into it with a masonry drill. I've used hammer drill function on my drill. It's just a simple cordless drill to create my holes. I've done them 50 millimeters deep, that is 2 inches, and then I've bought 4-inch screws, which I only put 50 millimeters or 2 inches into the wall. I leave a space of about 50 millimeters or 2 inches, and I've cut simple spaces out of PVC piping so that I can keep the vertical garden away from the wall a little bit. And keeping it a little bit makes it easier to mount the plants and to maintain them, and also it means there's less scope in behind for pests and insects such as bladers or earwigs to create a haven. And also it means that the wall is less likely to be marked over time just through the plants themselves, and I found this to be the case. So the next thing I've done is I've put the screw partly in, I've put the spacer, and then I've put the grid steel over the screw and then just fastened it up lightly so that they are held in place quite firmly. Then what I've done is I've potted my plants and I've mounted them on it. This was 100 millimeters the steel across and deep. This is a 100 millimeter pot. All I've had to do is I've just cut some simple slots into the side, and I can just mount it like that, and it's perfectly stable. It can't really move, it can't blow off or anything. In this particular case, I'm growing bromeliads, so these are neoregelia bromeliads, and these are Tillandsia air plants. But you don't have to grow these sorts of things. You could grow simple annual bedding plants, flowers for example, such as pansies or petunias, or you could grow vegetables, some leafy greens such as lettuces and spinach, or you could grow herbs such as thyme. They could easily be grown in this context. So a whole range of plants, but not really shrubs, or obviously not trees. Regarding maintenance, I found there's very little weeding with these. Occasionally I'll get the odd weed. Because I've got these on the clips and just easily take them off and maintain them if I need to. I do need to water them. You can put an automated watering system with a dripper line. I've chosen not to do that, but it would be quite simple to do that, to put a dripper line along the top of each row of plants. And then for feeding, these plants I'm growing need very little feeding. I just give them a foliage spray about once a week to once a month in winter. But if it was cropping plants, you would need to be more vigilant with the feeding because they are more hungry. So that is things like strawberries or vegetables. Now this is just one of the 3 vertical gardens I've got on this property. The second one is a similar sort of structure that I put on a wall of my terrace up against my house. It's in a sheltered position, and I've grown a range of air plants again, ones that are more sensitive than the one I'm building at the moment, which is in full sun. At the bottom of that I have got a gap between the vertical garden and the floor to make it easier to sweep or blow under. And I've done the same with this one here, so it's about 200 millimeters or 8 inches above the ground. I always do that. The third one that I've created it is freestanding, so I got again a 2.4 meter by 1.2 meter grid steel. I bent that into a tube, so it's 2.4 meters high, or slightly higher, because again I wired it onto some stakes that I put into the ground, and then I tie-wired it on. So I put spacers around the base to lift it up a little bit. And once I allow for the fact that the plants are growing up from the top, it's actually nearly 3 meters high. So it is quite a spectacular site. Again, very, very simple. Now, for some of the plants, such as the pot plants that I sometimes put onto my air plant wall, I bought small wire hangers that I can use to mount them with. And in the case of the large bromeliad tower, I've made my own clips which I can lift on and off quite easily. If you're constrained financially, or possibly in a rental property, then you may not wish to go to so much trouble regarding setting up a vertical garden. What you can simply do is obtain a pallet and create a vertical pallet garden. I suggest that you simply stand the pallet on end and use pot plants as I'm showing here, just putting them between the slats. You can also get troughs that perform the same function and allow a little bit more scope for root growth. Quite a lot of the media resources suggest that you put landscape fabric or weed mat on each side of the pallet and pack it with topsoil or potting mix. I'm quite strongly opposed to this because over time that mix or soil will go sour and wet and it won't grow plants well. So I much prefer the modular approach. Again, you can grow flowers or herbs or vegetables, strawberries, such like with a vertical pallet garden. If you wish, you can paint the pallet garden to make it more attractive feature in your garden. So I hope this inspires you to make a vertical garden of your own. As I say, you can make it in any situation, create a lovely environment around you, and will always be much admired by garden visitors. So thank you for watching this video through to the end, and good luck with your ventures.